We've entered the Endgame with Avengers Endgame.
He's still got the stones, so...
So let's get him. Use them to bring everyone back.
Just like that.
Yeah, just like that.
Even if there's a small chance that we can undo this, I mean, we owe it to everyone who's not in this room to try.
I really enjoyed it. I thought it went some surprising directions in terms of narrative, in terms of character progression, in terms of story. It was just fantastic overall.
I'm really surprised by this, how much more emotionally grounded it was, especially in the first hour of this, that it really takes its time. Some may probably think it takes a little bit too much time, but it hits these emotional beats that I don't think really many other Marvel movies have done, and I really appreciated that. And of course you get into more, as the movie goes along, it goes into more conventional territory, but it does so much right. It hits so many beats that you want it to hit. It's, I think, a very satisfying end to this chapter of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
What do you think of the story in terms of just complexity? When we talked about Infinity War, we kind of said that it was a little hampered by the fact that we were juggling so many different groups and characters. Did you feel the same thing about this one?
No, I didn't. I think that by paring down, by Thanos eliminating half of the universe, that eliminating half the characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe worked wonders for it, that we got to spend more time with some of these characters than we did even in some of their own movies, that I was really impressed by, but like I said before, by how emotional some of these things were, how these superheroes, even though they can command lightning and punch through multiple villains, that they're dealing with the fact that they couldn't save their loved ones. And I thought that was a really nice exploration for the first part of the movie.
I think one of the biggest things I came away with after finishing this film up was just how different it was from Infinity War.
Yes.
Like, this is a completely different film.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be pretty similar, and not only those story beats and Thanos, but no, it took me completely by surprise just where the story ended up going, how they got there, and it really does, without spoiling anything, it really does pay homage to kind of the entire cinematic universe, to the various films. I mean, it does it in some pretty clever ways.
Yes.
And I really appreciated those, having been with this whole thing since the first Iron Man.
Yeah, I think it really does thread this difficult needle path of trying to do a lot of fan service, which it does a lot of, while also doing something new and trying to do the same things that other Marvel movies have done, especially with a giant battle at the end. That should be no surprise to anyone. But doing it in an interesting, creative way where it's not like, well, we've seen this 25 times before. So I walked out like you, very impressed.
What did you think of the fight scene and the fight choreography in this film? I think this has probably one of my favorite fight scenes just in the whole of the cinematic universe. I think this is one of the best ones.
Yeah, I think that they do a good job of keeping the audience aware of what's going on, keeping the scope is huge, but we know which superheroes we're following, we know where they are in terms of the geography of the battle, that it could easily get so confusing like a Transformers movie or something, but it really, I think it kept us on the battlefield knowing what was going on.
So it sounds like this is a perfect film. What's keeping this from a 5 out of 5?
I mean, in the end, it still comes down to the big giant battle at the end, which I thought was very good. But in some of the emotional notes, I felt there was one emotional note, can't talk about it, but that got to me. But there's a lot that feels manipulative. I would say manipulative and a little bit overwrought. And they really drag it out, and it's fine, but it just didn't hit me as I felt like I was getting hit over the head with Thor's hammer emotionally with some of these beats, and there's a lot going on at one time that you do get jarred around a lot, and while it does a great job, I don't know if it's a perfect job, but it was satisfying, more than satisfying enough for me.
And I think the thing that viewers need to understand is there are some issues with this film,
sure,
but we can't talk about them.
Right.
Like, we can't talk about them at all, because to explain the issue, you've got to explain the story and what happens. and the directions it goes in are really just unpredictable.
Yeah.
So I think I had the same issue. Like I said, the smaller moments stuck with me more than those big emotional moments that
Yes.
were really supposed to I guess, try and be tearjerkers.
Yeah, this really feels like the closing of a chapter, and it's a very fitting closing to a chapter because you want to thank and you want to reward people for investing more than 50 some hours of time watching all of these movies, and I think it does that really, really well.
And be sure to stay, because there is something a little bit after the mid
Oh,
credits.
yeah.
It's not exactly a scene, but it's kind of a bit of an homage to
Yes.
to the characters that we've come to know over these past 18-some, 20-some movies. I mean,
That's right.
It's a great time. And to be honest, you're gonna go see it regardless.
Right.
If you've been following them this long, you're gonna go see Endgame, and I think Endgame is the perfect title for this film.
Yes.
It's not the end, but it really does have a lot of finality to it, where if they did end it here, I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 4 out of 5. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, 4 out of 5 for me as well. I thought this is as fitting of an end as you're going to get to one of the biggest movies, one of the biggest blockbusters of all time. To read my review, check out St. Joe Live every Thursday in the St. Joseph News Press, or go online to stjoelive.com and join me next week as I check out Long Shot. Until then, we'll be live with movies. See you later.